Today, I really want to destigmatize fertility challenges and what it means to really be able to get pregnant, who can get pregnant, who can't. Is it hard to get pregnant? Let's get real about this because all you'll see on social media and the news and possibly even through friends and family is that it has to be hard to get pregnant and that, it's likely you're going to need to do IVF. And the truth is, this isn't true. And to be honest, I am part of the problem, right? I work in women's health. So most of my social media content is reframing around challenges getting pregnant. But that's just because that's who I work with and that's who I see. But let's get real about what it means to be able to get pregnant. So let's start by what is fertility. Your fertility is simply your ability to get pregnant, to carry a child, and to give birth to a healthy human, right? So unless you are actually trying to get pregnant, there's no surefire way to measure your fertility because your fertility is your ability to get pregnant. And there is no test to do that. There's no score. There's no signs or symptoms that say you can get pregnant and you can't get pregnant, right? Because you could have all these symptoms. You could have painful periods. You could have short periods. You could have heavy periods. You could have all these things, quote unquote, wrong in your menstrual cycle and still get pregnant fairly easy. When I got pregnant with my first child, it took me almost 2 years, which I'll get into a little bit. But my cycle was 35 days, not ideal. I had painful cramps, likely had undiagnosed endometriosis, and still got pregnant naturally. When it comes to talking about fertility, we need to understand that there is no way to truly predict your fertility, your ability to get pregnant without trying. Now, that being said, I do always recommend that women try to align their health, especially their menstrual health, before trying to get pregnant to take the anxiety out of it. But that being said, you could have all these things wrong in your physical body and your emotional body and still get pregnant naturally and easily. And what I see lately is there's this common misconception that fertility has to be hard and that it has to be hard for most people. And the true statistics are that only 10 to 15% of women have trouble getting pregnant. That means 90 to 85% of women do not have trouble getting pregnant. And I like to believe that I'm not super special, right? So I always like to put myself in the majority of that. Most women don't have trouble getting pregnant. But what you're going to see in social media, in the news, is the people who are having trouble getting pregnant because they're the ones who are voicing their opinions. Usually you're not having people showing up being like, hey, I got pregnant in 2 months, look at me, right? We don't usually show that stuff. And then another common misconception that I see is that if you have reproductive health issues such as endometriosis and PCOS, that it's near impossible to get pregnant naturally. And that absolutely is not the case. It's only 50% of women with PCOS and endometriosis have trouble getting pregnant. And yes, 50% is a big number, but there's also the other 50%. So we can't just focus on the negative 50%. There's another 50% of women who are getting pregnant no problem. Which again, I'm not saying this to say you shouldn't focus on your health. Anything that's physically going on in your body is a sign, a signal, and a wake-up call to be looked at. If you have endometriosis, if you have PCOS, if you have painful periods, if you have short cycles or long cycles or heavy periods or light periods, these are all things that should be looked at and examined, and you should work towards balancing your body in order to alleviate these symptoms, but they don't mean you can't get pregnant. But here's the problem. There's such a stigma around getting pregnant and the fact that it needs to be hard to get pregnant that I see a lot of women showing up in my office in their late 20s, early 30s, who just believe that their body is not able to get pregnant. And maybe they've been trying for 1 month or 2 months or haven't even started trying yet. And they already have ingrained in them this belief, this idea that it can't happen. Because it's hard for everyone else, it's going to be hard for them. And that mindset right there is going to make it hard for you to get pregnant. It is so challenging to do something that you don't believe you can do, right? You wouldn't climb a mountain that you didn't believe you could do. You wouldn't apply for a job that you didn't believe you could do or you would get, right? It's really hard to do things when we don't believe we can. If we don't believe we can get pregnant, our body is going to accept that belief, and it will be hard for us to get pregnant. So let's normalize that it doesn't need to be hard to get pregnant naturally and that you can get pregnant naturally. A lot of women believe that they can't even get pregnant naturally and just need to go to IVF. And the honest truth is that your body as a woman, if you have a uterus and fallopian tubes, you were meant to conceive a child. And if your body is in balance, if your body, mind, and soul are supported, that will happen. Now, I also want to normalize that can take time. So, with my first child, it took me almost 2 years to get pregnant. And I did a whole podcast on my fertility journey with that. Definitely go check that out if you're interested. My point is that it took me almost 2 years to get pregnant. And I didn't go for fertility medications, I didn't go for IVF. I kept working to balance my body and support and nourish my body so that it was ready to handle and support a child. And I did get pregnant naturally. A lot of women, what happens, what I see is that there's this fictitious 1 year mark that if you're not pregnant by 1 year, you definitely need fertility medications and you definitely need IVF. And that's not true, especially if for that 1 year you haven't been making changes, right? If you don't make changes, nothing will ever change. So if you're trying every month and you're not doing anything differently each month, then it's really not shocking or surprising that you're not getting pregnant. It took me almost 2 years to get pregnant, and I did things to support my body that entire time. I was getting acupuncture, I was doing herbs, I was changing my diet, my mindset, my lifestyle. I was really doing the work. And a lot of times we have these internal timelines too, right? Where you want to start trying in May and you want to be pregnant by December, and maybe you have a wedding down the line and you do or don't want to be pregnant for that, or you have a bachelorette party and you do or don't want to be pregnant for that. But these are all fictitious timelines that we create. And when it comes to fertility, there is no hard, fast timeline, right? Everyone's body takes a different amount of time. And then there's also the third party factor of another spirit or soul that you are welcoming into your family and into your life. And they have their own timeline that we cannot control also. Culturally, fertility is not talked about enough. Usually you hear it talked about by OBGYNs or IVF doctors or holistic medicine doctors like myself, and that's what you hear. But most women aren't just telling their stories. And I think because of that, there is a strong misconception around how hard or easy it is to get pregnant or how much time it takes to get pregnant. And then there's also a lot of shame around fertility. When women have trouble getting pregnant, there's often this sense of shame that their body's not doing something that it is meant to do. And I felt this too. I definitely felt this when it took me almost 2 years to get pregnant. I wasn't telling other people. I wasn't even telling my friends. Me and my husband obviously knew, but my parents didn't know. My close friends didn't really know, because there's a lot of shame involved in it. And you just, you don't want everyone to know. But that shame also goes into how much fertility is talked about realistically. And the funny thing about shame and fertility is that if a person has bad allergies, they're not ashamed to tell other people. They're not ashamed when they're coughing or sneezing. They're not ashamed that their body isn't doing what it's meant to do, right? Your body is meant to be able to come into contact with pollen without your eyes getting red and itchy and you sneezing. There's no shame around your body not being able to do that. But when it comes to fertility, there's so much shame about it. So let's also destigmatize shame when it comes to infertility. And honestly, let's take away the word infertility, because infertility doesn't exist. Your body just is not in balance at that time to be able to get pregnant, but it doesn't mean you're infertile. Chinese medicine offers a much more compassionate and less stigmatizing approach to fertility. All the women that I see to support them getting pregnant, none of them are infertile. Even if they've been trying for 3 or 4 years, they're not infertile. Their bodies are just out of balance. So they need to strengthen their fertility, their ability to get pregnant. But there's nothing wrong with their bodies. They just need extra support. And I wish this was the way that everyone looked at fertility, that there's nothing wrong with your body if you're not able to get pregnant quickly, but that your body needs extra support. So to keep this podcast today short and simple and sweet, and to end it out, what I wish more women understood about fertility, one is your fertility is your ability to get pregnant. It doesn't have to be hard to get pregnant, but it can be hard to get pregnant. And it can take time for some women to get pregnant naturally, but it is possible. And I believe it's possible for almost every woman out there. Fertility, if you are having trouble getting pregnant, that is a wake-up call that something is out of balance in your body that needs to be supported and adjusted. If you're having trouble getting pregnant, that is a wake-up call that there's something out of balance in your body that needs to be supported, and that your body really just needs more nourishment and support. And that conditions like endometriosis and PCOS do not mean that you cannot get pregnant naturally. They just mean that your body has something going on that needs to be examined and needs support. And really, you need to get to the root cause of it. And throwing medication or supplements at a problem is never getting to the root cause of it. The root cause is discovering what thoughts, beliefs, patterns diet, exercise, lifestyle habits, your job, your relationships contributing to creating the illness and disease in the first place, and then uncovering how you can reverse that. If you want to learn more about how to get to the root cause of your reproductive health problems, or you really just want to optimize your fertility for when you're ready to try and start a family, as always, reach out. Information on my website is in the show notes and about my 3-month program where I help women really kickstart their ability to heal themselves. Thank you for tuning in to There She Goes. I hope today's episode helped you see the connection between your emotions and physical health a little more clearly. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who could benefit from this conversation. And remember, true healing starts from within. Let's keep exploring that journey together. See you next time.